come and join us if you're stopping for a chat. Well, so I'm going to ask Eoin and Amy how it was for them, but then the whole idea of this is we get to talk with each other about how we feel about seeing it. Some of us, I guess, will be seeing it for the first time, position in life, I feel hard to imagine, but others will be seeing it for about the 50th time. And the way this works, I guess up here we're going to get the conversation rolling, and then we open it up to the floor. And Dave and I have both got mics, so we'll do the thing of running down the road and passing you the mic so everyone can share comments and questions. So, honoured guests, Amy, get the ball rolling. How was it for you, Diana?
Well, it's fantastic to watch it in an audience full of like-minded people. And it completely changes the experience, rather than sitting at home watching it, just kind of chuckling to yourself, and sort of trying to keep up with Margot and her martinis. So yeah, that's my first impression, is what a joy it was to be in a big room full of queers watching it. And so it's funny because just after, as soon as the film ended, someone came up to me and said, "Oh, you didn't need the X-ray specs, did you?" And I thought, well, it's funny. So I'm interested to know how many of you actually thought that there was, sort of very clear lesbian subplot there.
Let's go for the old show of hands.
Show of hands.
Harrington is a dyke. Hands in the air.
No. Any lesbians think that Eve Harrington is a lesbian? No. And this, I was sitting next to my lesbian friend, and I said, "Do you think Eve's a lesbian?" She said, "No." So, maybe it's the gay men's version of what lesbians are. Because I did, but I understand the kind of bigger picture in terms of Eve and Addison together as being the immoral ones, the ones without a heart, the unlovable and unable to love. That Addison's speech at the end. And there has been quite a lot written about this film in terms of when it was made, 1950, just after the war. Women had quite a lot of freedom during the war and were, working and sort of making their own lives without men who were out fighting. And then all of a sudden, they had to be brought back in to be the good housewives, that we hear Margot sort of chiding about. She says that to her friend, doesn't she? Oh, something like being a cute little housewife or something. So there is an ulterior motive in this film, which is to put women in their place, which is bizarre considering you have someone like Margot Channing.
Tell that to Phoebe.
Yeah, but so I'd be interested to know when we open up the discussion about this. What is it that makes it a lesbian film, or is it just not a lesbian film? Is it not a lesbian film? Any comments? I would like to hear from someone who actually thinks that Eve Harrington is a lesbian and why.
Well, yeah, I was kind of saying, I was just...
Hold on a sec, we've got a microphone.
Like, I certainly got, like, the themes you're bringing up about, like, with the sapphic goggles on, like, seeing her as a lesbian. There were quite a lot of sort of suggestive things, but maybe that was because you gave us that idea to look at it like that. Maybe. I certainly saw it as like that. But I have to say, when I actually got to the end of the film, and I realised that was actually the message that was trying to be passed on, I was like a little bit taken aback. I was like, oh my god, that's so foreign to us. Like, trying to put women in their place, that was really the point of the film. And I found that quite surprising. But no, I didn't think she was a lesbian overall. But I certainly saw like the lesbian undertones.
Yeah. I mean, there was that one moment when Eve is sort of reclining on the couch and Phoebe is there, and she's asking Phoebe, oh, how long did it take you to get here? She's like, oh, an hour changing on the train, you know, and I think Eve says something like, oh, you know, you won't get home till all hours. And then Phoebe says, I don't care if I never go home. You know, I mean, to me, that's probably the most lesbian, because otherwise, the lesbian moments are just about stalking. Which I think every lesbian has either done or experienced. And a sort of psychopathic stalking. But again, that is part of the message, an anti-homosexual message that's trying to be put across in this film, which is everyone's safe and happy in their nice, safe and happy homes, get married, you know, the whole speech that Margot does in the car about, I just want to wake up and look at my husband, you're not a woman unless you can do that. Does anybody believe that Margot Chan would say something like that? She'd fucking kick him out of bed. I mean, you know, so this is, you know, there's certain unbelievable moments when I think that the subtext of kind of what they're trying to achieve with this film, what Hollywood is trying to achieve. We have to remember, Hollywood is so inherently conservative. You know, Hollywood has never really tried to push, a queer agenda ever. You know, even recently, you know, we get a movie like The Kids Are All Right, and you know, still the lesbian has to wind up with a man, and, you know. So we've not really moved on very much. I'll stop now.
No, I concur with absolutely everything you said. You know, I just think this movie is the gift that keeps on giving. And it illustrates how good the script is, that everybody is seeing something else, something different. You know, so it's projection, but you're projecting, so your bits onto it. You know, everybody here has seen a different type of movie. So I mean, to me, it's quite obvious. Eve and Addison are definitely two queer characters. It didn't occur to me when I saw this as a teenager at all. But I just enjoyed it.
And I don't think a half femme like Eve would go after someone like Margot in the 50s.
Was the V-neck jumper during the audition? Was the V-neck jumper during the audition for Steve Lesbian Mom?
Yeah. Yes.
So what is it like seeing this film, which is supposed to be one of the classic hallmarks of especially gay male culture? I remember the first time I saw it, I was in New York for the first time in '82, walking down Christopher Street looking to get laid, of course, going into a bar in the middle of the afternoon, and it was like walking into a Catholic church. This movie was up on the screen, and a whole bunch of gay men was staring at the screen, mouthing the lines in the same way that devoted women mumble the Hail Mary. I had no idea what was going on, but I tried to educate myself since. What's it like seeing it now? Do we feel it particularly belongs to us? Do you think do we love differently to our, is it different watching it tonight than on another occasion? Betty?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved watching it. But it's got those gigantic bullshit moments, like bloody McCarthy. Gigantic bullshit moments like the one in the car. But it's so straight, it's so completely straight. I think when the two women were going up the stairs and they put their arms around each other, I thought that was very nice and warm. And then I thought, is that what they mean by lesbian? It's not. It's just two women being affectionate going up some stairs. It was very, had nice clothes on. I liked a lot of the clothes. I'm a bit of a sissy like that, I'm afraid.
So we hear.
I like those frocks.
Another gentleman here.
No, I just wanted to say, I saw this only about a year ago at Barbican, and it was a mixed audience, but I would say that several group I was with, because through a meetup group, were mainly straight. There was far more laughter here. I don't know what it is about gay men and lesbians, that we maybe pick up on more things. That's possibly picking up more on the script. there's one thing about this film that actually has struck me. I can't remember seeing another film of its time that dealt with an older woman, younger man, in a sympathetic way. It wasn't, it wasn't an old hag, and it wasn't making fun of that. I can't remember another film that does that, and I'm wondering if there's something there about age gap relationships as well that is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you mentioned that because, of course, he loves her, despite her going on and on and on about how she's 40. Fucking God help us all. and thanks for laughing, Beth. But the situation where they go to the cup room, to celebrate, and she's finally getting married, and she sort of takes on this whole kind of mumsiness all of a sudden, that she's getting married and, now she's got something to do with her evenings. Now she's not taking roles that are meant for younger women. And I just think, again, it's one of those bullshit moments that you mentioned, because I can't imagine that character kind of being like, okay, now I'm pinned down, now I'm married, now I'm going to just, play...
She's like being thawed out.
Yeah, like housewife kind of thing. It's like, piece me cake, So I just, again, it's that, I agree that it's an interesting dynamic, but the way that dynamic is played out means ultimate subjugation for a fucking fierce woman,
Yes, but if you put it in some context, it's also about the conscious and the pressure of society of women going back to being women, and that's being at home, cooking and washing and doing that stuff. So the woman actually is suffering between having, her professional life, a life of her own, or be trapped in a marriage of 1950s style, where she can't, she has to only think on her husband.
To the point, and if all of us at the age of 40, to be unmarried at the age of 40 in 1950 was probably absolutely unheard of, and only actresses and prostitutes could probably get away with that. And lesbians, yes. So you make a good point, but her absolute rush to get married, this deep desire to get married, and somehow this is like her life fulfilled. Now she's going to be happy. It's not enough to have your name in lights, to be rich, to be famous, to be, the whole speech in the very beginning of the film that Celeste Holm sort of, well, you've got everything to be happy about, Margot. You're rich, you're famous, everyone loves you, blah, 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 blah. But you're not married. And if you're not married, then you can't possibly be happy.
I think you're reading a bit too much into it, because I think it's very much like Mrs. Patrick Campbell, who famously, she says, a great actress, she said, what I'm so delighted about is I can exchange the hurly-burly of the chaise longue for the deep comfort of a double bed. She does say, I'm going to go out touring, I'll be an actress still, I'm not giving it up. She's not putting on an apron and going to the stove. She loves this guy, and she kept saying no to marriage, if you remember, again and again in the movie. So she's not feeling that pressure, but when she's confident that the young man loves her, oh, our gay hearts palpitate. When she's confident, then she says, yes, but I'll continue my career.
I have to say, I do wonder if the secret of Davis's genius in general, and in this film in particular, what made gay men in the 50s and on through to the present day, and myself included, love and admire her so much, is that underneath the wisecracks is that she does that speech, which is actually adapted from Far From the Madding Crowd, where Bachelor Bird says, what I want in the morning is to look up and you will be there, and in the evening you will still be there. I think that kind of beating heart. It's also complicated by the fact that Davis was in love when she made the movie, and I think in the scene in the cub room you can actually see a real strength of feeling coming through. But then I'm a fag, so I would see that. I don't know. It's a complex thing, I think. Maybe the success of the film allows you to think both things.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but see it through feminist eyes as well, and in the situation of the time, and what Hollywood was trying to achieve, not just in this film, but lots of other films, and the subtext of messages, which was, okay, you had Rosie the Riveter, but now get back to having babies, and everyone went to the pictures. What is the best way of fulfilling that propaganda, but by putting it on the big screen?
Yeah, I agree with what you're talking about there, but I think what I've often liked about the film is, I mean, there are lots of films in that time, that era, that gave that message about a woman's places in the home, but it didn't sort of involve having the three major characters being female. And I think looking at it in what was going on at the time and having three slightly demented characters for very different ways, neurotic, psychotic, and stalkers, I remember watching it when I was very young with my mum, and she is a gay man, and she loved all these black and white, very camp movies, and I think I grew up with a sense of that it's okay for women to sort of be in this central role, that's important, and it's important for me to see that. So I enjoyed it very much as quite camp. I always thought it was very camp because of the wittiness of it. But I also thought it was strange seeing it now. I haven't seen it for years. I've probably seen it 10 times previously. And I think it is very ambiguous. I do get why the lesbian X-ray specs might be activated, because I think there are elements and there are some suggestive, bits that are left open for us to interpret, possibly whether that's purposefully or not. So it was interesting to look at it like that, but I still sort of go away, apart from being slightly uncomfortable with this